Okay, thanks, Dan, for volunteering to be tribute for a note taker. And also, please, anyone else, do pitch in for taking notes. Welcome, everyone, to the July GitOps Working Group monthly meeting, July 8th, 2021, 1800 GMT, which is, for my time, 2 p.m. And there's been a lot of progress last couple of months, including this month. So we'll go ahead and post I'll go ahead and post the link in the chat to the meeting notes. And, just please, anyone feel free to add topics to the bottom of the topics list. And if there's something that's really high priority that we might not get to, just speak up and let us know. Thanks. So I guess we're going to start with looking at several of the different committees, the events committee, the principals committee, and the website project. Christian, you're first on the topics list for the events committee.
Yeah, so the really big update is the CFP is open for GitOpsCon here in LA. So it's going to be, again, a day 0 event with KubeCon. It's going to be a hybrid event. So for those that can make it out, we'll have stuff in person, and then there will be stuff to watch remotely. Not 100% sure how that's going to work. The CNCF is going to take care of a lot of that for us. But the big thing is the CFP is open. So go ahead and I dropped the link in the document of where to submit CFPs. That is open through July 25th. And so really excited. This will be our second event, and and it's also our first in-person event. So it's going to be really cool. So that's the biggest update from the events committee. And we're right now, I guess, just working with the CNCF now, instead of doing it just all by ourselves, working with the CNCF to get this event.
That's super exciting.
So that's it. Yep.
Yay. That's super exciting. And yeah, please, everyone, just check the link. Check the docs for the link that Christian put in, I think, and I'll just paste it into the chat too. That is awesome. Okay. So it looks like my topic is up next. It's really just an update on the for the principals committee. You all heard last time that the principals committee had released a pre-release version of the revised GitOps principles. Not extraordinarily different than what was already out there, but one that had a pass through essentially all the members of the GitOps working group, specifically people that are meeting weekly, focused on the principles, who are part of that committee, have been helping to make sure that it really makes sense to the broadest users, the broadest audience, and that it's technically accurate for what the intention of those principles are. So the pre-release is out there. There has been we've received some feedback from several different people, and we're still looking for feedback on them. But the feedback that we've received so far is that some of the wording might be a little bit repetitive, and perhaps the initial sentence description before sort of the full paragraph description of each principle maybe a little maybe it could be a little more catchy. So the committee's been working on that, and that's really the update. The only thing I wanted to mention is that we have a stated goal of having a full release. We have not yet set a deadline on that. We do have a milestone, but the milestone doesn't have a date attached. So we're looking forward to a v1.0.0, but we just haven't set criteria. We have some criteria on what that should mean, And if you want to see that, please take a look at the document, the open-GitOps documents repo. There is a milestone, a v1.0.0 milestone, and so far the issues that we've identified are linked there as important for that milestone. So anyone that wants to get involved in that, please join the Principals Committee meetings, which are weekly, and they're also in this committee, in the meetings document.
Hey, Scott, can you post a link to the principles? Someone asked on chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's grand. Cheers, Scott. I got it. I've linked it into the chat though, so if anybody else was as slightly lost as myself. Hey, man.
Thank you, Donald. Also nice to see you. And you too, Kansu. Hey, thanks for joining. Great. Yeah, that's perfect. And just to be clear, there is, there is a main branch, but there's also a pre-release version. So check out that version if you want to see the principles at that stage. There are some updates in progress. So just make sure to match the version if you want to see, what has been released. Only last thing is I'll go ahead and link to that. I'll go ahead and link to that milestone for folks. And here we go. I just wanted to suggest one thing that I'm hoping that we reach a v1.0.0, or basically a full release that we feel comfortable with sooner than this. But I think an absolute deadline, I would love to propose that an absolute deadline is sometime before KubeCon North America 2021. I think it would be wonderful to make sure that when we go there and we actually do GitOpsCon, that we aren't still kind of toiling over an initial full version of these principles. I think that would be kind of a, I think that's unnecessary personally. And I think that we have like a very, very good, not only momentum, but like a really good mutual understanding. And it's just a matter of getting not only some of, helping with some of the catchiness update, it's not really changing the underlying content, but also bringing in some of the other supporting documents that we had in earlier drafts. That's it for my update, unless anyone else from the Principals Committee has something they want to, I know there are a few of you on here, if you had anything you wanted to say about that. All right, looks like I covered it. Cool. All right, so next on the agenda is the website. Dan.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So the website is nearly complete. The design was done, all the coding is done. If you haven't seen it, let me see if I can post. Let me grab I'll grab the preview URL. I was getting some help from Scott today because the only thing that was keeping me from having this posted live in the PR was actually just figuring out the way to preserve history while moving things between Git repos, which is a silly problem. But Scott was helping me out with that. I think we'll be able to get it out today.
Yeah, and you basically got it. I was just going to send you a couple of fun tricks, but I actually had back-to-back meetings right before this, so sorry about that. But we'll tag team after. Yeah,
we'll get it done. I think today though. You gave me pretty much everything I needed, and I just need to execute on it. So this is the website. We'll add additional members. I think one of the things you'll notice with this, I'll share my screen really quick. So actually, hang on. There we go. So one of the things you'll notice with this is obviously there's a focus on getting involved, where we're asking people to jump into the subreddit. So many of you may not already know that there is actually an official subreddit. It's just our GitOps. So now we'll be promoting stuff there, and it's not a super active area yet. It's a pretty new subreddit, so there's only 500 people in there, but would love to get more participation from people. I think ongoing, people sharing their tricks and their tips and their ideas, and their concerns and real stories and discussions and things like that could be really, really valuable. Obviously the meetings, open an issue, and then our Slack, we do have a Slack if you're not aware of it, so please join it. There is a SIG app delivery mailing list with our own topic there. We have project boards, and then of course we've got the committees that are running. So that's great. And then we also have this section on member companies. Now, we've had a little discussion about what a member company is. In this case, each one of these companies actually has essentially like governance, like a vote, like a governance vote on the project. But we have a whole bunch of people who have already self-declared that they're an interested party. So we're thinking maybe we'll just list these interested parties. We've got dozens and dozens of companies there. So maybe give people more chances to formally show that they're engaged with this process, that they're signing on to these principles, et cetera. We have the current version of the principles. And then, oh, wait, sorry, I updated it, but I gotta push my commit. My commit's sitting on my local machine still. Rookie mistake. And then we've got all the events that will be listed there, as well as the past events that we'll get into. So yeah, that's the website. We'll I'll get those commits in and get that PR out hopefully today. And then love to have, if people want to get involved and help improve and make additions or open up pull requests. This is, going to be governed under our same principles. So it's all just a PR to commit, and we'll get that automation all set up and rocking and rolling.
Woohoo! I'm pretty excited, by the way, for seeing that up. It looks amazing from my point of view. One of the notes, remember from the website, the events committee meeting where we focused on the website was, oh, actually, you know what? I am going to hold my comment until after the hands that are raised. Sorry about that. Jesse.
Actually, I think Christian was up first.
Oh, my bad. Christian?
Yeah, mine's quick because it's a dumb question. What's because I know we're toying around with the official domain that we're gonna, do we come up with official domain? I know we're looking for opengitops.dev or .io. Well, what's the, just so I know, so like when it goes live, I can start like blasting that out to everyone I know.
Dan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I don't know that we've reached a consensus on .dev or .io. Between those, we own both those domains, so we can use either, and then one of them just needs to become the canonical version. And as well as .org. Good point, Scott. I think the argument for .io was that it's just very popular. There's a lot of .io projects. The argument against .io is, of course, that it stands for Indian Ocean territories, which is not, it's not a big deal. But it's like there was that whole issue with like Bitly and like .ly. It's like, well, it's like a Libyan domain. .dev is dedicated to development projects, and it does require SSL, so you can't have a .dev domain without SSL. And then, of course, .org sounds more official, but maybe it sounds older. Maybe it sounds more stodgy. So I don't think we have a consensus on it. We own them, but I think at this point, everybody involved has just been like, I don't really have a super strong opinion. I lean a little bit towards .dev. Some other people were leaning a little bit more towards .io, but probably not a huge deal. LOL. So yeah, if you have a good opinion about it, please put it up there. And again, we'll have all these domains. We'll point there. We just need to have one be the canonical. GitOps for life.
Oh, Dan, there is I'm sorry, I don't mean to skip ahead of you, Jesse, but it's a super important note to what you're saying about domains. There is an issue in the GitOps working group about domains. There was a purchase of .com and .net by that I don't think anyone in the GitOps working group knows which entity or who purchased that. That was just as the name was being decided on. so I won't, there's no assumption that this was a name squatting move. It might have been purely good faith that someone intended to pass it on to the CNCF. But so far there has been no move made for that. So if anyone does know anything about that, please just put those people in contact with us or vice versa, and we can just have a conversation about it. Thanks. I don't know if you were finished, Dan, with that.
Nope, that was it. I'm seeing in the chats, most people saying they like .dev is what I'm hearing.
And that Jesse's old. Also saying that.
Okay, so I think Jesse is up.
I had a question and a comment. That was my question. So now my comment is just in case we didn't say it formally, the website looks awesome. Good job. Really well done. I know it was really like kind of solo, then team, then, so awesome work.
Thanks.
That's it.
I kind of want to like throw a party for the primary designer on that thing.
I saw a couple ta-da emotes.
Yeah,
Like, I think that's
Tiago has
pretty.
been somebody, he's been somebody that's doing design and development work for CodeFresh for a long time. And one of the reasons that I love Tiago is that he does both the design and development. And so it's nice when you have somebody who's a good designer, who's a good developer, they can just get it done. And he's always been quick and responsive and no problem. I don't think, not to detract at all from his contribution, obviously. But I don't think he necessarily knows a ton about like what Open GitOps even is, but he was like, what am I doing? Making this Open GitOps thing? You got a logo, you got colors? Awesome, I'm on it, So obviously great to have his help in making this amazing website, and glad to hear good feedback about it. And I will pass on the kudos from the team that he's I'm sure he'll be very happy to have. Also the designer of the new Argo website.
Ah, that's cool.
Mhm.
Very nice. We do
Famous.
not have any other, yeah, hey, Christian, absolutely. The events committee should definitely be talking about a party. That is one thing that I don't think came up yet. So
It has not come up yet, but we that's definitely something on the radar. So
hope that makes its way into the notes. We don't have any other topics right now on the list, so it's just open at this point for us all to think about or say what's on our mind or suggest a topic. Or if anyone has any questions, that might be a good, it doesn't have to be extraordinarily formal. We just raise hands to make sure we don't talk over each other and that we're being respectful, that's all. Christian?
yeah, that's actually one thing I forgot to mention about the GitOps Con is that we are still, believe we are still looking for sponsors. If you want your name there, just ping me and I'll put you in contact and how to get a sponsorship package there. Right now, Red Hat is just a diamond sponsor right now that's showing up on the site, but that doesn't mean that there's not slots open for further sponsorship. So if you want, your name up there and are interested in sponsoring, ping me and I'll put you in contact with the person if you want to sponsor. Oh, there we go. Dan put the chat. Thanks. And that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, real quick. Do we have the sponsorship package already that's shareable to folks? Okay.
That's in the chat, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, I see. There's the additional. Oh, I see. Yeah, the link to the PDF. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, so the CNCF PDF has every single zero-day event. So.
Cool. Dan.
Yeah, I was just going to add on that. that CodeFresh has already put in our stuff to sponsor officially. I think Weaveworks has already put in to sponsor officially. And the packages are pretty good, actually. There's some cool things you can do. A gold sponsorship is only $7,500, and there's an opportunity to generate some leads off of that. So I think probably like 90% of the people in this call are probably Red Hatters, the people that I don't know. So Red Hat's already in, so I guess that one's done. But send it on to people. The kind of big vision that we talked about in the events committee was we really want to do GitOpsCon. We think that it could be its own standalone event next year. And in order for us to do that, getting sponsors at this event is going to be really valuable, because if we get, 10 sponsors who are all like on board and ready to go, and we get all the attendees, then there's no reason why next year, coming into April or May, we can't be thinking, let's do like a 3-day GitOpsCon, and we'll get Argo involved, and we'll get Flux involved, and we'll get HashiCorp involved, and we'll get everybody there. Yeah, sell your NFTs. Like we could make this a really big thing. And when you think about KubeCon, I love KubeCon. It's my favorite event. But it's funny when you're at KubeCon to realize that a lot of these people are focused on stuff that I'm not really focused on. Like you've got this whole, the storage folks over here who are all solving that, problem, which is super important. And you've got other people doing service mesh and all these other things. But GitOpsCon, that's something that's really laser focused on how do we deliver software faster? How do we make it more reliable? So I'm really excited about how we can grow this event. So getting more sponsors, key.
Cool, thanks, Dan. Donald.
Yeah, cheers, Scott. You just reminded me that I've been quite rude. So I've just joined your group without introducing myself. So cheers for the suggestion there, Dan. So my name is Donald Spring. Hello, everybody. I'm from Red Hat, as you've probably guessed. So I work for the Open Innovation Labs in Red Hat. I'm working there for a good few years now. And GitOps has been like a little bit of a magical adventure that I've been on with Chansu, who's my partner in crime. Also here. So I just thought I'd say hello, and yeah, cool. Good to see everybody and good to get involved in the community.
Yeah. Sorry we couldn't introduce ourselves because we got the other Zoom link. We were waiting there, and then someone shared this one. So yeah, hello everyone. Sorry.
Cool. I'll put my hand down now.
Thanks, Donald. Yeah, we had good opportunity to work together at past GitOps events. So
yeah, it was cool.
Really nice.
I have a question about the website. What's the website built in? You're deploying it to Netlify. I presume it's just built with Jekyll or Hugo or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's with
Gatsby, I think you said.
Gatsby. Thank you. That's the one that I can never think of. Yeah, it's Gatsby. So just a static site generator, okay. Which actually does lead to a little bit of an interesting equation about doing GitOps for the website. Obviously, it's very easy to have every commit generate the site, but technically we should have an operator actually looking at the current version of the site and making sure that there's no changes. So we have to figure out how we implement that, because most of us, Scott and I, for Flux and for Argo and Red Hat for Argo, really been focused on the Kubernetes side of the equation, but we're gonna have to do it for a static site and have it actually monitoring the static site files and looking for changes so that we can be fully compliant. Time to dog food.
GitOps. Yeah, exactly. GitOps group using GitOps. Who would have thought?
Interestingly, I'm well, I could say that because I know Matt has his hand up, but just tiny parentheses so that we don't get lost in what Dan just said. Interestingly, I'm working on something like that right now as a way to help document the Flux controllers and also best practices for controller runtime. So anybody interested in connecting on that, reach out to me. Yeah, all right, cool. Dan, okay, thanks. Matt? Oh, did Matt? Oh, no, there you are.
How are you? My name is Matt. I also kind of crashed your party here for the first time and wanted to just say hi. My name is Matt. It's my first meeting. I was at Red Hat up till about 3 years ago. For the last almost 3 years now, I've been at a company called EverQuote. I was their VP for cloud engineering. And now I'm just doing architecture work, actually, now that we've built out a cloud platform over the last 2 years. We're running a largely CNCF stack. And from the get-go for our infrastructure, we've primarily been using Flex V1 and have adopted GitOps patterns for mostly on the infrastructure and the platform side. My customers are engineering teams. My product is a cloud platform that's running largely on EKS and mostly Kubernetes. Last year or year and a little bit ago, we founded Tag Observability. I've left a link in the Google Doc to the charter. It's a fairly broad charter. I wanted to kind of reach out with two hats on. And so I'll say with the first hat on as one of the co-chairs for Tag Observability, I think that there is some gaps and some opportunity to figure out how in a general way that doesn't marry itself or bond itself to say Flux or whatever, how do we reason on, how do we describe, observe, and grok what's happening with GitOps workflows specifically, like how can we visualize them and correlate them with other activity and other things that are in scope of the charter. And I think that in particular, the controller reconciler pattern, right, which is a more general, which is a concrete usage of a more general systems, reconciliatory control loop or a feedback loop. I think that with the prevalence of folks using more CRDs generally as part of the definition of their workloads, so things like crossplane are a great example of this. And as we're mostly in AWS, I've been looking at the ACK, which is the AWS controllers for Kubernetes, which when married with crossplane puts GitOps not just in scope for Kubernetes hosted workloads as it is for us today, but I think to the more general vision of having all the things be done by the bots. So I've been collaborating with Jay Pipes and some others over at AWS on that, and that's part of our future for our local development thing. So the second bit is more with my day job hat on, but also my chair hat on. So I think there's a huge opportunity to say, like, now that between IoT, Kubernetes being used to more than just for orchestration of containers and GitOps, the convergence of all these things means that all these other domains are going to have the same general problem of how do we, like, it's easy to kind of debug what happens with one operator controller loop. When you start zooming out and how do you aggregate those and how do you visualize that? How might you use augmented reality or HoloLens type stuff, holograms, with these new modalities of perception, how do we do the cognition on what's happening at scale and aggregate? And how do we actually enable these various personas, whether they're application developers or cluster operators or infrastructure overlords? How do we provide them the tools to visualize this? So I think broadly, there's opportunity for collaboration between Tag Observability and what's happening in the GitOps space and in this working group. And I would like to kind of just open up some potential for collaboration between the two in a way that's consistent with the CNCF's values and our respective charters. So that's sort of my somewhat more verbose hi. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt. And definitely welcome. And that is part of this working group's charter as well, is to continue to find alignment with other, or to foster and welcome alignment with other, well, no longer SIGs, but tags and other groups. So here, the very first thing I would love to suggest is, I think a PR against the GitOps working group charter, where at the bottom of this, there's some alignment notes. There's cloud native alignment, SIG, well, okay, app delivery SIG, tag alignment, and other related groups. I'm not exactly sure where this should, if it should be under other related groups, or maybe just another section under the observability.
I did notice that part of the working group charter. I wanted to come to a meeting before I made PRs, but I'm happy to take an action for that if you were talking to me.
I was definitely talking to you. I think that would be
Sure.
a really good way to do it. And I'm not really speaking with any specific authority for the group. I'm just moderating. So I just wanted to give like a kind of a welcoming, like here's another good way to have that conversation be available and accessible to other people that aren't on this call now. So yeah, so for the observability tag to have some, a note about alignment there and the desire to foster a bridge.
Yeah, if I could put a short addendum on what my little monologue, which I promised wasn't a prepared statement from before. With the prevalence of K3S and like this convergence of embedded systems, ARM, and all these new robotics and drones and all these various scenarios that are being looked at, from construction to mining to aerospace to everything, I think we're about to see like an explosion by orders of magnitude. IoT alone means that we're talking about, tens to hundreds of billions of clusters, not tens to hundreds of millions of clusters in aggregate on the planet. So I think that the ability in particular to understand and characterize like what's the, as a GitOps operator, as any operator goes through its life, like what does normal look like? How do we quantify that? How do we know what the outliers are? How do we do it? I think because of the scale coming from IoT, let alone these other domains that are about to get a big influx of, a big influx as a product, whatever, a big addition of a bunch of new domains and scenarios. I think it's just further underscores the need for both this working group, the GitOps working group, as well as some sort of collaboration of like, hey, let's identify the need for innovation in this space.
Awesome. One quick note, I think I can just say that we already have this mapped out, that the, since the primary, if you look at the mission statement in that charter, that the primary focus of the working group is to clearly define a vendor neutral principle-led meaning of GitOps, but also that this will establish a foundation for interoperability between tools, conformance, and certification. And I think that's the level that you're talking on, and that all of those lasting documents and that would relate to that, whether it's specs, code, or whatever else to help with those things, will live in the Open GitOps project. So I just wanted to note that that's already been established by the group. And thank you and welcome.
Cool.
I just wanted to look on the list to see if there was any other. Yeah, how do we put all of that into notes? Well, we'll do our best.
I'm sorry, I fell down on figuring out how to write that all down.
Yeah, that's a tall order. Matt, maybe you can even help with some of that. But I'm happy to help with the notes that I just added. So, or the.
It's to put some of my verbal assault, or not assault, my verbal, whatever. I'll put some notes in the doc. Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, what I meant by the embedded stuff, by the way, is now every Raspberry Pi can be a cluster, right? So Kubernetes is just going to like spider out everywhere, and be running in all these devices. The edge is now like us. We are the edge, right? So.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Donald.
Oh, there's something of note too. I don't know if folks saw it, but the Kubernetes API server has just been instrumented with OpenTelemetry as of a week or two ago. A PR landed. I'll put a link to that in the notes as well. But now for the first time, we actually have distributed tracing that starts from the Kubernetes API server. And it's a pile of work that's been ongoing for a while that just landed in the last week. So that gives us a lot of tools to actually, it gives us the raw data from which to construct better visualizations of the flow of operators as GitOps reconcilers run and do their thing. So.
That's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, if you could definitely note that in the docs for folks that want to stumble into it later, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm old fashioned. I do this and then I type stuff. So.
Perfect. That works. Donald.
Yeah, quick one. Is there does the Open GitOps group have like a Twitter handle or anything like that? Is there stuff around social media and stuff like that already set up? Is there? Okay, yes, simple answer.
Both the working group and the Open GitOps project has Twitter handles.
Okay, cool.
Do we have is the events committee the same as the comms committee? No.
It is, well, at the moment, yes, kind of.
Maybe de facto, yeah.
De facto, yeah. We have a communications team. So we use GitHub Teams for some of these things, and we have a basically, so for instance, committees are focused groups of people where multiple people can join and help, and they're for a relatively limited period of time is the idea. That you have a committee, we form them organically as we need things done within the working group, and then we just kind of dissolve them when they're no longer needed. We do have some ongoing things that are needed, at least as far as the lifetime of the working group, and probably transition those into the Open GitOps project, which are just teams that we didn't really call committees because we don't need regular ongoing cadence of meetings for them. And that's the communications team. And we also have a security team. And excuse me, oh no, there's one more. Yeah, the website team, right? So I think those are really task-oriented things. So yeah, Donald, for example, if there are areas that you're interested in, same with you, Chansu and Matt, and other people on the call that I haven't even said hello to yet, but if you're interested in getting involved in any of those things, please reach out to us. And it is an open group. So the most important thing is just that we know that we can function properly, and it's really open to anyone to contribute to any of those sides.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Is the source code for the website then a bit behind what you showed earlier, Dan? Do you have it like, is there another repo or something that has it? Because I'm just on the Open GitOps website.
Yeah. We're getting the PR put up today, like after this call. It's a few commits behind.
Okay, cool.
That's just the preview site for people to give feedback on.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I found a typo and I was hoping I could fix it and make a contribution.
You definitely can. Yeah,
we'll get the PR up here soon.
Yeah, follow that repo if you want to do that, and jump right in as soon as notified.
And I'll purposely not look for typos before I open the PR now, so that I leave it open for you.
I mean, you could use your super sleuth skills to figure out based on my previous question, where the typo is. But don't do that because I want to make a contribution.
That is excellent.
Now Dan has the horrible task of keeping a typo in his pull request. So unfair.
Needs to do this one.
That's so hard.
It would look more strange if I didn't have a typo in my PR.
I feel like one character change I make would be equivalent of like putting my change up on the fridge so everyone could see it. Like, there you go, well done.
I definitely also want to say out loud what Dan said in this is like, certainly there are folks who aren't on this call now that have been part of the communications team, like Sonia and Chris Short, who've really helped with different aspects of the communication side, and just who haven't really foregrounded themselves as being super visible within the group, but who are officially part of those GitHub teams. So also the other thing that's interesting that what you all might want to know is that if you do want to join something, it is relative. It's not formal in the sense that there's no ceremony, but there is. But we do keep track of all of those things in GitHub issues within the GitHub working group the GitHub working group repo at this point. So even folks that are added to the communication team or the security team or whatever else, that's all noted there. So we'll make sure that there's a proper paper trail for everyone in case they need to either show their boss or even just are curious who has joined what for just for normal accountability. as a CNCF project. Let's see, do we have any other topics, or did anyone have any other questions or things that they wanted to, either introductions or things they wanted to say? We still do have 15 minutes, but we don't have to use it all. I'm happy to use it, or I think we're all happy to use it.
I have a quick question. Has there been any prior art or work done by the working group or others around, how to codify or describe in an open format the historical execution of GitOps stuff? I mean, I realize Git is the history, but when you think about like, a change is made to Git and some number of agents wake up and do things, if like the commit is sort of the leaf, is the root of this whole set of activities, has there been any look about like what's the ontology of data that should be collected, just were everything to be collected? I realize different slices of it exist in logs and time slices, but like as a data model, has that work been undertaken
Yeah.
in a generic way?
Yeah, so the way that we've approached this has been, let's be as agnostic as possible about all of those kinds of things so that we can focus on the core elements. And so like, for example, whatever is in Git should be reflected in, what's in prod, right? But is that because you maybe built an artifact and that artifact actually triggered the sync? I mean, I think it's kind of neutral on that topic. It's like, you can set it up in a number of ways. But one of the things that we do have kind of on the roadmap is the idea of having a section of the website that we called patterns or best practices, which is a place where like you would have a catalog and you could say like, I'm using AWS, I'm using, this resource and this stack and whatever, what kind of patterns exist that I could follow? And people could submit patterns that say like, oh, here's a pattern where if you're deploying a static generated site and you're doing X, Y, and Z, you can find this pattern and this is conformant with a standard. And we're not necessarily, we're pretty early in our thinking about that. There's not necessarily like, okay, do we have to like certify those things, or do people just submit them and there's open discussion about them and people can just comment on them and we just make it more of a playground? I think we go either way. But no, as far as like the very direct mechanics of like what you're asking, I think we've wanted to remain neutral in the principles, because at this point, GitOps is kind of the distillation of a bunch of best practices from like 20 years, but really being mostly applied to Kubernetes.
Right.
There's nothing in the principles that says anything about Kubernetes. There's nothing that
Sure.
requires Kubernetes to be used, but that's just where it's been easiest applied. Part of the interest of like AWS and even Azure is to look at like, can we use these principles when we're even designing our products so that we can make them more GitOps friendly, more GitOps approachable, more like Kubernetes is maybe.
I would think about this from two personas that roughly need the same underlying data, just different maybe slices. One is obviously developers, right, who increasingly own their own services in production. So it might be like, hey, I pushed this commit and in 15 minutes has gone by. Why is it taking so long? Oh, because a Cloud SQL database takes 12 minutes and they're having a bad day and it's 17 minutes today. So stand down, right? So there's those sorts of personas about like, why isn't the desired state matching the what's in Git if it's not yet fully formed, or if it's just, as in our case, a self-service sort of platform. But perhaps the more critical one for adoption that I'm seeing in my own day job, as well as from talking with others in similar roles, is when you go and need to get something certified or signed off or blessed by a CIO or a network SecOps that's not used to these new workflows, that's not used to Git being a system of record, has all kinds of access about like what's happening, what artifacts are produced, what's the sum total artifacts and where do they live in our various choices, right? So like in general, there's definitely I think I need, because we've had to figure it out as we go, and it still can be an ongoing, challenge as it's such an innovative, rapidly expanding space to kind of sell the non-technical aspects. Our company is an endurance marketplace, and we deal with protected data, so we have like compliance issues and auditing and things like that. Public companies that have to do a Sarbanes-Oxley once they're around $750 million and up in market cap, like they have these additional concerns where how they deploy things and who approves it and how that happens is really a limiting factor. That means a lot of tech might sit on the shelf for years before people get around to prioritizing it. So I think some work done in a generic way to say, like, if you're using a GitOps deployment philosophy, irrespective of the tooling, here are the things that you want to consider when doing threat modeling, when doing technology selection for how you go implement your journey, leveraging these principles. Like, these are the generic things you need to consider, because it's oftentimes that stuff where well-intentioned engineers just run into a wall, potentially, not for any nefarious reasons, but just because this is all new, and the people that need to approve it are the last people to hear about it. And the people that they hear about it from typically aren't prepared to make those kinds of pitches or to articulate what the concerns are, because in many cases, it's a better position to be in. It just takes a cell that is targeted at the decision maker. So that's kind of why I bring it up. And I think that's the most important reason why it might want to be done somehow in a vendor neutral way. So the working group, the space, the open source space doesn't inadvertently make a secondary market that then all vendors will compete over. And then you have this like fraying, inoperable lock-in everywhere, but happening because people have a critical concern that they need to meet their auditors' requirements. So I don't know if that's too scattered or makes sense, but what do you all think? Or is this the wrong altitude or group to do that? Or
yeah, I don't. So I'll put my hand down now. But yeah, I think I will just give my own opinion based on what we have already, but the documents that we already have in place and the agreements that we already have in place. What I was saying earlier about, just what Dan is saying exactly, and the principles themselves, that's out of scope. But the mission statement of the GitOps working group, and also ultimately what will be in the Open GitOps project, is that the principle-led meaning of GitOps will establish a foundation for interoperability between tools, conformance, and certification. And some of those things can be considered lasting programs, documents, or code, depending on which is required for those things. And all of those things that are relevant and are accepted will live in the Open GitOps project. So to me, it sounds like that's really where, this is where my opinion, so that was all factual, but like where my opinion comes in is that, it seems that is one of the places where you could very potentially help Matt with the bridge between the observability tag. We are essentially, if I understand what you were saying, Dan, I totally agree with you, is that we are basically in the early days, let's say, of putting together these best practices and so on. And we are pre-conformance of any kind at this point, but that is a goal, a stated goal in our mission statement. Also, as part of the principles group, what we are also doing is sifting through, kind of collating, I wouldn't say prior art, but drafts in progress that were sort of an older pull requests that combined lots of different content that Brice had worked on, I had worked on, a number of other people had pitched in on and also contributed to through the PR process, that we are now still in the principles committee sifting through to decide to pull in which of those relevant pieces into supporting documents in the documents repo, not necessarily the principles themselves, but other supporting documents. And one of those is relates to personas or user profiles. That work, some of that has been done, but that has yet to be fully done. So Matt, what you mentioned about that persona, that's a place that you could contribute, is helping to flesh out, just starting a discussion anyway, about the user profile that you're talking about. And I think that through maybe a GitHub discussion, that could really take on some legs. But that's my opinion.
Cool. I can just make a PR, or should I start with a discussion prior to a PR? How do you all work?
We are fairly open about it, but a discussion is a really good place to start, because then I think it like helps avoid burnout. This is just my opinion, but it helps avoid burnout because someone doesn't feel totally frustrated that they put all this work into a pull request that then conceptually the group feels should have gone in a different direction. So
sure. Okay, I'll start there then. I'll start with the discussion.
Cool.
Thanks for the guidance.
And in fact, we probably should add that to our list of getting involved, in terms of contribution process, if it's not already there. Christian?
Yeah, so Dan literally just posted exactly what I was going to say. This is exactly something that you can bring up at the principals committee. However, I will +1 with Scott is saying that, Matt, I love it. You're really forward thinking, but you're like in step 1,000 when we're in step 2. So, I mean, and that's not to say that that shouldn't be where we should be going or what we should be doing, and the discussion definitely needs to happen. But just as a precursor to joining the principals committee is that we're a few steps behind, if
yeah,
anything.
that's what I meant earlier by like, am I talking out of turn, or is this the wrong place to have this kind of?
No, this is a great.
Like it's my first time. I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is the perfect time to bring it up because for everyone else to hear, right? If they want to be involved in some of this documentation that we've been working on, the more the merrier, right? We definitely need help in that regard, especially more minds make things better. And I think also, as I think Scott was alluding to, is that we a lot of times we work asynchronously. A lot of times people can't make meetings, can't discuss. So a discussion is definitely a perfect place to start, and then it'll definitely turn into like a PR eventually, right? As soon as the discussion is had. So just in general for everyone, like if you have an idea, if you're thinking of PR versus discussion is definitely a place to start. Because as just Scott is just alluded to, it's like sometimes, you put a work in a PR and it's like, oh, we're never going to merge this because X, Y, Z. So anyways, so that's just kind of adding my +1 to what everyone was saying.
Okay, I'm just putting my moderator hat back on. We still don't have additional topics, but we are 2 minutes to the top of the hour, so that's probably a really good place to stop. If you haven't yet, feel free to save the chat if anyone hasn't been able to catch up to the chat by the time we close the meeting out. We also do save the chat. We're just a little bit behind on uploading them all, all the meeting chats. We save them in the repo. So you won't lose it entirely, but if you want to see this before we catch up to that, please do just click save chat. And thanks, Robert, for the roadmap concept, or not concept, suggestion. Before we close out, do we want to make any assignments for the next meeting in terms of, we've essentially got 2 roles, moderator and notes. Does anyone feel like volunteering for moderator or notes for the next monthly meeting?
Do notes.
Okay. And we don't have to have this assigned. This can be done, in between or last minute even. It's just, we ask at the end just to help spread the love.
I'll do whatever.
I'll moderate if nobody else is jumping up, but I'm very happy to cede it to anyone else who will raise their hand. So I've moderated lots of meetings, so.
Cool. I type plenty, so same. If we have 30 people show up next time, then awesome, and we'll figure it out. But happy to take notes.
Awesome.
Thanks,
well, then
Scott.
in that case, we're unless there was any other burning statements or whatever, we are at the top of the hour. Thanks, everyone. This was an amazing meeting, and and please do join the weekly meetings for the different committees where you see that you can fit in, and for the monthly meeting for everyone, we'll see you next month.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Guys.